let's back up to the LPS. So they're coming from gram-negative bacteria. Where are people being exposed largely to these gram-negative bacteria?
There are so many sources. You get these bags of peeled carrots, and you leave them in the refrigerator for a few days and get a little slimy. That's LPS. Within 4 days, you've got toxic levels of LPS in diced onions and in peeled carrots. Within 4, just read the science. It's like, wait, what? What? I mean, my kids, we gave them those peeled carrots all the time. We buy the bag at Whole Foods thinking it's just a little more convenient. Kids like them, they can just grab them, and they aren't going to peel or whatever. That's an example. But showers. Everyone needs to be cleaning their shower heads. Just Google bacteria and showers, and you find that there's always a little bit of bad bacteria in the water. It's cleaned, metropolitan water, but they can't kill all the bacteria. There's always a little bit. And when you turn the shower off, the water is right at the top of the shower head, and bacteria there will start creating what's called a biofilm. It's like a polymer, a plastic covering that protects the bacteria in the future, which is why there is antibiotic-resistant bacteria. It's not that the bacteria has changed, it's that it creates biofilms so that the antibiotics can't get to it. It's coming up against this plastic. Your shower heads create biofilms. And when you read the science, it's like, wait, what? What? Every single shower head that they look at in Colorado had biofilms. And in Hawaii, they did 2 states. They looked at Hawaii and Colorado. Every one of them had biofilms. I don't know how many years they had been installed. I don't remember when that was. But they cleaned the shower heads, and then within 3 months, the Hawaii one was back. So in hot climates, you have to clean your shower heads at least every 3 months. In Colorado, it took over a year before the biofilms were back. So at least once a year, you clean your shower heads, and it's so simple. You get strong vinegar. We use 24% vinegar. It's on Amazon, it's really cheap, but 8% will do, and it's not as potent. And you just soak the shower head in vinegar overnight. So you just unscrew the shower head from the pipe, and you put it in a little plate or a bowl of vinegar overnight, and then you put it back up the next day. Be careful, because this stuff is potent, and you've dissolved the biofilm. But every time you turn on a shower, the aerosolized mist is loaded with LPS, and it's loaded with gram-negative bacteria. So for people that have recurrent throat infections or ears or eyes, nasal sinus stuff, headaches, seizures, you got to clean their shower heads as a component of getting rid of the triggers activating the immune system. Other sources of LPS, the most common one is in the gut. We all get exposed to a little, it's in our food, but when you have a leaky gut, because the balance of your microbiome is so far out of balance, the inflammation that's in the gut is causing the, I call it tears in the cheesecloth of the inside lining of the intestine. And so that it doesn't matter how healthy your food is, these bigger molecules are going to get in if you have a leaky gut. And there's always a little gram-negative bacteria. Our world is just loaded with, it's everywhere. I mean, it's on the countertops.
So it's not a war per se against the bacteria as much as it is a knowledge base to protect the lining of the GI tract and have behaviors that are conducive to minimizing the potential for the risk.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. This study always shocked me. I just couldn't quite grab this one. I just, what? They took 10 people and they did microbiome analysis. They did stool analysis to see what kind of microbiomes do they have. And they got 10 hotel rooms. The researchers didn't know who was in what hotel room. They cleaned, almost sterilized the hotel rooms beforehand, And then they had the people stay in a hotel room overnight. The next day, the researchers came in. They could tell you with 100% accuracy who stayed in what room, because they just wiped down the faucet in the bathroom. You know, they wiped down the countertop or the tabletop, and they identified the bacteria that's left behind. And said, oh, that belongs to that guy. That belongs to that woman. And they were 100% accurate. And it's like, wait, what? So we have to understand that we live in a world of bacteria. It's their world, not our world. It's their world. And you can't sterilize to get rid of the bacteria. I mean, we all know, of course, you and I know that there's 10 times more cells of bacteria in our body than there are human cells. Professor Yehuda Schoenfeld, the godfather of predictive autoimmunity, we shared the stage in Rome last year, and we had lunch, and I said, Professor, how are you? And he looked at me and he said, Tom?
Oops, sorry. Say Tom again.
And he looked at me and he said, Tom, we are born 99% human, and we die 90% microbial. And then he just stared at me. And my mind is going, oh, this is a test, this is a test. And so I realized, so Professor, does that mean that our microbiome is really the dance of life? And he said, precisely. You must be an excellent dance partner with your microbiome. That's the key. All disease begins in the gut. Fasano's paper, right?
Yeah, Fasano once said to me, your gut is not like Vegas.
Right.
What happens there doesn't necessarily stay there.
That was a great one. I remember you told me that was a great one. Yeah.
So we're dancing with our microbiome. I want to pull this around back to mold. I've read a number of newer papers coming out. The research on mycotoxins is exploding in the last 15, 20 years. They're showing now that heightened levels of mycotoxins cause disruption of the microbiome. Actually, you know, penicillin, the antibiotic, is a mycotoxin. And so people being exposed to mycotoxins are being exposed, in a sense, to antibiotics, things that can disrupt the bacteria that live inside of them and on their skin, et
It's
cetera.
a really good analogy.
And that opening up the potential for gram-negative bacterial overgrowths or dysbiotic overgrowths, because it's not a matter of whether they're there, it's a matter quantitatively of how much is there and whether or not they're able to penetrate through those barriers. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair to say. So it's always, all disease begins in the leaky gut, right? So the concept is reduce the inflammation in the gut, and then you reduce the intestinal permeability, the leaky gut, which is the gateway in the development of all autoimmune diseases.
So people shouldn't walk away from this interview with the fear that they need to go scrub more, wash more. They should walk away with understanding that it's their responsibility then to be a good steward for what they're putting in their body and what they're exposing their body to.
That's a really good recommendation. You know, you start thinking about the little things. Like one of the things that's helped my marriage so much is when I started putting the toilet seat down, right? My wife would remind me again and again. But when you put the toilet seat down and then you flush, you don't smell anything in the bathroom, right? Well, when you smell something in the bathroom, what do you think you're smelling? You're smelling bacteria. It's aerosolized. Aerosolized, yeah. That's what you're smelling. So there's benefits to being a considerate husband in terms of, you know, but there's also health benefits. And you start thinking like that, okay, how do I reduce my exposures to the amount of gram-negative bacteria in the world? Well, you know, if you've got a container of raspberries and you're really looking forward to having some raspberries, you know, you pull them out of the refrigerator and you see, Oh, there's mold over there. But the mold's only on the left side of the package, so you get those out and then you eat the stuff on the right side. Not a good idea. Maybe, well, I don't see any mold on there. Okay, at least rinse it off first. Use a little veggie wash on it, you know, from Truly Free or one of our other companies that make those kinds of products. You know, just take an extra step to minimize your exposure to lipopolysaccharides and to mold. You start thinking this way and you don't get fanatical about it. I mean, I got tired of my wife reminding me to put the toilet seat down because, you know, and my son, you know, when he was 3, he started using the big boy potty. And but he was trained from day 1 at age 3 to put the toilet seat down. So it took me a little longer.
More malleable brain.
That's
than
right.
youth.
That's right.